Sign these papers, Dad, or I'll put you in a mental institution, my daughter said. She wanted to steal my $890 million restaurant empire. But for 10 months, I'd been documenting her every move. When she pushed the papers across the table and forced me to sign, I opened my laptop and played the recording evidence of all her crimes. 6 FBI agents were waiting outside. I appreciate you watching this. What do you think happens next? Does Warren eventually forgive Natalie? Or is this the end forever? Drop your prediction below. Quick note. This is a fictional story created for entertainment and reflection. Characters and events are imaginary, though the emotions explored here feel very real. Sign the papers, Dad, or we're having you committed to a psych ward. My daughter's voice was ice. I looked at Natalie across the mahogany table, her fingers resting on documents that would strip me of everything her mother and I had built. I didn't flinch. I'd known this was coming. My hand moved beneath my chair, reaching for the legal binder I'd hidden there. Trevor, my son-in-law, smiled like he'd already won. You're mistaken about something, Natalie. But to understand how we got here, I need to take you back 10 months. 10 months earlier, morning sun filled my corner office at Legacy Table Holdings headquarters in the Gulch. Below Nashville buzzed with construction and tourists. $890 million in valuation. 90 restaurants across 12 states. Numbers that should have made me smile. Instead, I stared at quarterly reports with a knot in my gut. James Whitfield knocked softly. My CFO for 15 years wore his trademark bow tie and worried expression. Warren, we need to talk, privately. He set down a manila folder. I've been reviewing financial irregularities, documents missing from secured files, consultant fees to shell companies I can't trace. He paused. And Marcus Wellington knew about our Memphis expansion before we announced it publicly. Marcus Wellington, my biggest competitor. Always one step behind until recently. You think we have a leak? James nodded, sliding a printout across my desk. Security logs from last Thursday night. I scanned the page. Access times, keycard swipes. Then one line stopped me cold. 2:47 a.m. Fisher, Natalie, Executive Records Room. My daughter, in the records room, at 3 in the morning. Natalie wasn't working on any projects requiring that access, James said quietly. She handles marketing. She shouldn't have clearance for those files. I know what she handles. My voice came out sharper than intended. Warren, this isn't the first time. 3 other instances over 2 months. Always late night. Always when the office is empty. I walked to the window. 35 years building this company. 20 years with Diane before cancer took her. 4 years of grief. And now this. Don't tell anyone, I said finally. I need to understand what's happening first. After James left, I sat alone staring at that access log. The daughter I'd raised. The little girl who used to help me in our first restaurant kitchen while Diane and I worked the dinner rush. That girl wouldn't betray me. But maybe that girl was gone. That night I sat in my home office at Belle Meade Bourbon untouched. Diane's photo watched from the mantel our wedding day. Her smile bright. I picked up my phone and made a call I never thought I'd make. Walsh Investigations. Ms. Walsh, I was given your name. I understand you worked for the FBI. 15 years, Financial Crimes Division, she confirmed. What can I do for you, Mr. Fisher? I need you to investigate someone, discreetly. Possible corporate espionage. I see. And the subject? I closed my eyes. My daughter. Silence. Mr. Fisher, she said finally. If I find evidence of criminal activity, there's no going back. Are you prepared? could I do this to Natalie? But I thought about 2,400 employees depending on legacy table holdings, families counting on those paychecks, the legacy Diane and I built. Yes, I'm prepared. 2 days later, Jennifer Walsh sat across from me. Early 40s, sharp eyes that missed nothing. I handed her everything: access logs, financial reports, Wellington's suspicious knowledge. She studied each document methodically. Mr. Fisher, if you're right, we're looking at wire fraud, conspiracy, federal crimes with serious prison time. I understand. Do you? She leaned forward. This will take months. 6, maybe longer. I'll surveil your daughter. Document everything. Gather courtroom evidence. She paused. And if she's guilty, you might lose your daughter forever. Not just to prison, to the relationship itself. She'll know you investigated her, that you chose justice over family. I looked at Diane's photo. What would she want? Protect our legacy. Protect the people depending on us. I already lost my daughter, Ms. Walsh, I said quietly. The girl I raised wouldn't do this. So either I'm wrong and you'll prove it, or I'm right. And that girl is already gone. I met her eyes. I just need to know when I lost her. Jennifer Walsh nodded slowly. Then let's find out the truth, Mr. Fisher. Whatever it is. To understand why I hired a private investigator to surveil my own child, you need to know about 2 losses that broke me: Diane and the daughter I thought I knew. 4 years ago, Diane collapsed in our kitchen on a Tuesday morning. One moment she was laughing at something on her phone, the next she was on the floor clutching her stomach. The ambulance, the ER, the oncologist's grave face. Stage 4 ovarian cancer. 6 months, maybe 8 if we were lucky. We got 6. I stepped back from legacy table to care for her. Our bedroom became a hospital room: oxygen tanks, medication schedules, hospice nurses, rotating shifts. Natalie was 28, then sharp and capable. She volunteered to handle day-to-day operations. Let me help Dad, she'd said, squeezing my hand. You focus on Mom. I'll take care of the business. I was grateful. She threw herself into the work, staying late, asking detailed questions about expansion plans, supplier contracts, financial structures. I thought she was being thorough, learning the business her mother and I had built. I didn't realize she was memorizing everything, filing it away for later. Diane died on a Sunday morning in May, sunlight streaming through our bedroom windows. She squeezed my hand one last time. Take care of our babies, she whispered. Don't let anyone take what we built. Promise me, Warren. I promise. Her funeral drew hundreds of employees, suppliers, competitors who respected what she'd accomplished. Legacy Table wasn't just my company. Diane had been there from day one, managing books in that first diner while I worked the grill. I stood in the receiving line at Belle Meade, shaking hands, accepting condolences. Aaron beside me, grief-stricken but composed. Natalie on my other side, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. Then I saw it. During the eulogy, Natalie's phone lit up in her lap. She glanced down and her mouth curved into a small smile. Not grief, not sadness. Something else. I glimpsed the name on her screen, Trevor. She typed a quick response, still smiling, while the pastor talked about Diane's dedication to family. My wife wasn't even in the ground yet. Who's Trevor? I asked Aaron quietly after the service. My son frowned. Some guy Natalie's been seeing. Started right after Mom got sick. Why right after Diane got sick? When I was too distracted to pay attention. When Natalie had unlimited access to company files, to my trust, to everything. The timing felt wrong. But I was drowning in grief. I pushed the thought aside. 2 years ago, Natalie showed up at my house on a Saturday morning, practically glowing. Dad, I have news. I'm engaged 3 months. She'd been dating Trevor Blackwell for 3 months. That's wonderful, sweetheart. When do I meet him? Trevor arrived for dinner that evening. Mid-30s, expensive suit, perfectly styled hair. He had that smooth confidence of someone selling something. Mr. Fisher, it's an honor. His handshake was too firm, his smile too practiced. Natalie talks about you constantly. Call me Warren. What do you do, Trevor? Financial consulting, investment advisory. I help companies optimize their asset structures. He launched into corporate jargon that sounded impressive, but said nothing. Aaron arrived late, took one look at Trevor, and shot me a glance that said everything. After dinner, Aaron pulled me aside. Dad, something's off about this guy. You just met him. Exactly. And I can already tell he's full of it. Did you hear him optimize asset structures? Theo, he's a con artist. I wanted to dismiss it as protective instincts, but Aaron had Diane's intuition. That week, I hired a private investigator to run a background check on Trevor Blackwell. The report came back clean. Too clean. No social media history before 5 years ago. No college records. No business licenses until 3 years back. It was like he'd appeared fully formed as an adult. I should have dug deeper. Should have trusted my gut. Instead, I watched my daughter marry a stranger. The wedding was at Belmead, Diane's favorite venue. Natalie wanted everything perfect. 300 guests, string quartet, vintage champagne. I paid for it all. Trevor claimed cash flow issues from a startup that didn't pan out. First red flag I ignored. Aaron stood beside me during the reception. It's not too late to object, he muttered. She's happy. That's what matters. But was she happy? Or was Trevor the consolation prize for a woman still grieving her mother, vulnerable and alone? Within weeks of the honeymoon, Trevor started showing up at Legacy Table headquarters. Just want to understand the family business, he'd say, asking questions about our financial structure, our expansion strategy, our acquisition plans. Natalie insisted he could help. Trevor has great instincts, Dad. Let him consult on the new Memphis locations. Against my better judgment, I agreed. 1 month after the wedding, Trevor sat across from my desk legal pad, full of notes about Legacy Table's operations. Warren, I've been analyzing your corporate structure. He leaned back, casual. Too casual. You've done incredible work building this empire. But you're 60 years old now. Have you thought about succession planning? The temperature in the room dropped. Succession planning. Well, yes. Estate planning, transfer of ownership, making sure the business survives transitions. He smiled. Natalie and I could really take this company to the next level. Fresh perspective, new energy. Maybe it's time for you to step back. Enjoy your golden years. Everything Diane had warned me about crystallized in that moment. This man didn't marry my daughter because he loved her. He married her to get access to an $890 million company. And Natalie had let him in the door. I looked at Trevor, his smug confidence, his calculated smile, and felt ice in my veins. I'll think about it, I said evenly. But I wasn't thinking about succession planning. I was thinking about predators, about men who smell blood and move in for the kill. Trevor stood extending his hand. Just want what's best for the family, Warren. After he left, I sat in my office for an hour staring at Diane's photo. She'd asked me to protect what we built. I'd failed her by not seeing this coming. But I wouldn't fail her again. In the first 2 months of the investigation, Jennifer Walsh and her team left no detail of Natalie's life unexamined. Jennifer's call came on a cold February morning. I was in my office at Legacy Table Holdings reviewing quarterly projections when her name lit up my phone. Warren, your daughter meets someone every Tuesday at Husk. I set down my pen. Husk, one of Nashville's buzziest farm-to-table spots, Marcus Wellington territory, though not technically his chain. Still, Wellington's people were regulars there. The coincidence made my stomach tighten. Who is she meeting? That's the interesting part. Jennifer's voice was measured clinical. We've identified him as Marcus Wellington himself, CEO of Wellington Restaurant Ventures. The room tilted slightly. Marcus Wellington, the man who'd spent the last 5 years trying to eat into our market share across Tennessee and Kentucky. The man whose supply chain somehow mirrored ours, whose menu concepts launched suspiciously close to our rollouts. You're certain? I'm sending you photos now. My phone buzzed. 3 images loaded in sequence. The first, Natalie seated at a corner booth, her back to the exposed brick wall, laptop open. Professional. Composed. My daughter in her element. The second, a man sliding into the seat across from her. Silver-haired, late 50s, wearing the kind of tailored blazer that screamed successful but approachable. Marcus Wellington. I recognized him from industry conferences. We'd shaken hands twice, traded polite nothings about Nashville's booming food scene. The third image stopped my breath. Natalie's hand extended across the table. In her palm, a small USB drive black casing catching the Edison bulb light overhead. Wellington's hand reaching for it. The exchange captured mid-motion, undeniable. Every Tuesday, Jennifer repeated. Same booth, same time, 1:15 p.m. She arrives first. Orders the shrimp and grits, works on her laptop for 20 minutes. He shows up, they talk for exactly 38 minutes, and she leaves first. He stays, finishes his meal, pays cash. I stared at the photograph, at my daughter's face, calm, even smiling slightly, as she handed corporate secrets to our biggest competitor. How long has this been happening? We've documented 6 weeks, but based on their body language, this is routine. I'd estimate 3 to 4 months minimum. 3 to 4 months. Right around the time Trevor started attending our executive meetings. 2 weeks later, Jennifer called again. This time her tone carried weight. I need you to authorize a company-wide security audit. IT protocol, completely routine. We'll examine every device on the network for vulnerabilities. I understood immediately. Legal cover to access Natalie's laptop. Do it! The audit took 48 hours. On a Thursday afternoon, Jennifer arrived at my home office in Belle Meade with a laptop of her own, and a man I'd never met, mid-30s, wearing a hoodie and carrying a messenger bag stuffed with external drives. This is Alex Reeves, Jennifer said. Digital forensics specialist, former NSA. He's very good at finding things people think they've hidden. Alex didn't waste time on pleasantries. He opened his laptop, pulled up a mirrored image of Natalie's hard drive. Your daughter's careful, he said, fingers flying across the keyboard. She uses a VPN, encrypted folders, secure email clients. But she made one mistake. What's that? She assumed the encryption would be enough. She didn't scrub metadata. He clicked through a series of folders. File names appeared: Q1_supplier_contracts, PDF Memphis_expansion, _timeline.xlsxbbq, _recipe, _final, _v3.docx. My chest tightened. These are all company files, I said quietly. Jennifer corrected. These are copies, duplicated 6 months ago, stored in a hidden partition, and accessed regularly. Watch this. Alex opened an email client I didn't recognize. The interface was sparse. No branding, just a login screen. He entered credentials he'd somehow extracted, and an inbox materialized. 43 emails. All between 2 addresses: N. Fisher, consulting@protonmail.com, and m.wellington.strategies@protonmail.com. Proton Mail, Alex explained. End-to-end encrypted, Swiss servers, designed for privacy. But once we're inside, the account encryption doesn't matter. He clicked on the first email dated 8 months prior. From nfisher.consulting to M. Wellington. Strategies subject initial proposal. Marcus, as discussed, I'm prepared to provide proprietary intel on legacy tables operations in exchange for the terms we outlined. My access is comprehensive. Let me know when you're ready to move forward. N. I read it twice, then a third time. The words blurred. There are 42 more, Jennifer said gently. They get more specific. Recipes, vendor contracts, expansion strategies, health inspection schedules. She's been selling him everything. Alex scrolled down, stopped on an email dated 5 months back. From M. Wellington. Strategies to nfisher.consulting. Subject Memphis and Knoxville. Confirmed N received the full package. The BBQ formula alone is worth the entire fee. My team reverse engineered it in 72 hours. Already in production. Memphis and Knoxville sites secured permits fast-tracked, thanks to your timeline intel. Wire transfer processed as agreed $3. 2M to Blackwell Ventures account ending in 4739. Pleasure doing business. M. I looked up at Jennifer. Blackwell Ventures. Offshore shell company. Alex said, pulling up a banking document. Registered in the Cayman Islands. Signatory Trevor Blackwell. Of course, Trevor. $3.2 million. I said, voice hollow. How she sold my signature BBQ sauce, the one Diane and I spent 2 years perfecting, for $3.2 million. Jennifer leaned forward. Warren, this is corporate espionage. Wire fraud. These are federal crimes. If we take this to the FBI right now, they'll move on it within a week. I scrolled down. Found another email dated 3 weeks ago. From nfisher.consulting to M. Wellington.strategies subject final phase. Marcus, don't worry about my father. He's still grieving Mom. He's not paying attention to anything beyond the quarterly numbers. By the time he realizes what's happening, we'll own him. Trevor's handling the legal side. 6 months and legacy table will be ours. N. I read that line again. By the time he realizes what's happening, we'll own him. My vision blurred with rage. Not the hot, explosive kind. The cold, clarifying kind. The kind that sharpens every thought into a blade. Jennifer's voice cut through the silence. Corporate espionage. Wire fraud. We've got her. I closed the laptop, stood, walked to the window overlooking the Belle Meade estate. The same view Diane and I had shared for 30 years. Good, I said quietly. Now let's find out what else she's done. 3 months into the investigation, my son Aaron handed me another critical piece of the puzzle. It happened on a Sunday evening in March. I'd invited Natalie, Trevor, and Aaron to dinner at the Belle Meade estate. We'd eaten roast chicken, made small talk about Nashville's food scene. Natalie had been charming. Trevor had been attentive. I'd played the grieving widower, exactly the role they expected. After dessert, Natalie and Trevor left around 9. Aaron stayed behind, helping me clear plates. We worked in silence until he set down a wine glass and turned to face me. Dad, we need to talk. About Trevor. Something in his voice made me stop. I went upstairs to grab my jacket. I saw him coming out of your home office. When I asked what he was doing, he said he was looking for the bathroom. But your office door was closed and locked. I walked to my office without a word. Aaron pointed to the mahogany filing cabinet where I kept estate documents and shareholder agreements. The second drawer. It's not flush. Someone opened it. He was right. I pulled it open. My estate documents were there, but the order was wrong. The shareholder agreement sat in front of the succession plan instead of behind it. Did you see him with anything? His phone, camera app still open on the screen. Trevor had photographed my estate planning documents, the papers that outlined who would inherit legacy table holdings if I died or became incapacitated. Aaron's jaw tightened. Dad, what the hell is going on? I'd kept Aaron out of this deliberately. He was 28, building his own career, trying to establish himself outside my shadow. But looking at my son now, I realized he deserved the truth. I told him everything. About James Whitfield's discovery, about hiring Jennifer Walsh, about the surveillance at Husk and Marcus Wellington, about the encrypted emails and the $3.2 million Natalie had stolen. Aaron's face went from confusion to disbelief to rage. You're telling me Natalie has been selling our company secrets, that she and Trevor are planning to steal Legacy Table? Yes, for at least 8 months. Aaron paced to the window, stared out at the lawn, where Diane used to host summer barbecues for the entire executive team. Mom built this company with you, and Natalie's just selling it. I'm gathering evidence. When I have enough, I'll take it to the authorities. But Aaron, this stays between us. If they suspect we're onto them, they'll cover their tracks. I want to help. Aaron. No. His voice was firm. I'm not standing on the sidelines. What do you need? I looked at my son, saw Diane and the determination in his eyes. You follow Jennifer's instructions exactly. No confrontations. No heroics. Understood. He held out his hand. I shook it. We'll protect what your mother built. Damn right we will. 4 weeks later, in mid-April, James Whitfield knocked on my office door at Legacy Table Holdings headquarters. It was late afternoon. Most of the staff had gone home. Warren, we have a problem. He placed a folder on my desk. Inside was a loan agreement from Pinnacle Bridge Capital, a commercial lender I'd never heard of. The principal, $18 million. The signature, Warren Fisher. My handwriting. My signature. Except I'd never signed this document. James, I didn't authorize this loan. I thought so. I called Pinnacle Bridge. They confirmed the loan was processed 11 months ago. Funds were wired to Cayman National Bank. Account holder, Blackwell Ventures. Blackwell Ventures, again. The loan came due last month. Grace period expired 3 days ago. Pinnacle Bridge sent a demand letter. If we don't pay $18 million plus interest within 2 weeks, they're filing suit. The collateral is 51% of Legacy Table's voting shares. The room spun. 51% meant control. Total control of the company Diane and I had built over 33 years. I need this signature analyzed. Forensic document examiner. Already called someone. Dr. Ellen Voss. She can have a preliminary report in 72 hours. 3 days later, Dr. Voss's report landed on my desk. Clinical. Definitive. The signature attributed to Warren Fisher on the Pinnacle Bridge Capital loan agreement is a forgery. Analysis indicates the signature was traced from a legitimate exemplar. High probability the forger used a lightbox or digital overlay technique. I called Jennifer Walsh. We have another crime. Wire fraud. Forgery, $18 million. Warren, it's worse than that. Her voice was tight. Pinnacle Bridge isn't a traditional lender. They're a litigation finance firm. They buy distressed debt and sue for collateral. If they file and win, they don't want cash. They want Legacy Table Holdings. I closed my eyes, saw Diane's face, heard her voice. We built this together. Don't let anyone take it. How long do we have? They're filing suit next week. Once they do, you'll have 30 days to respond. After that, it goes to trial. If they prove the debt is legitimate and you defaulted, they can seize the collateral. The collateral is my company. Yes. I looked at the forensic report, at Trevor Blackwell's name in the loan documents, at the Cayman Islands account that had swallowed $18 million of fraudulent debt. Jennifer, how much evidence do we need? For federal charges, we're close. Corporate espionage, wire fraud, forgery. If we can tie Trevor directly to the forged signature, we can bring in the FBI. That night, I sat alone in my home office with Diane's favorite bourbon. Her photograph watched me from the mantel above the fireplace. I wanted to ask her, was I doing the right thing? The bourbon was Blanton's single barrel, the same bottle we'd shared the night we opened our 5th restaurant. Diane had raised her glass and said, "We're not just building restaurants, Warren. We're building something our kids can be proud of." I poured 2 fingers into a crystal tumbler, the weight of the glass familiar in my hand. Natalie was 5 years old the first time I brought her to the kitchen of our original Nashville location. It was a Sunday morning before service, and she'd begged to come with me. I'd lifted her onto a stool near the prep station and handed her a wooden spoon. She'd stirred a pot of our signature BBQ sauce, the same recipe that would later be worth $3.2 million to Marcus Wellington. "Daddy, when I grow up, I want to make the best food in the whole world, just like you and Mommy." She'd looked up at me with those wide eyes, sauce splattered on her cheek, and I'd thought, this is why we do it. For her. For Aaron. For the family we're building. Now that little girl was conspiring to destroy everything we'd built. Had stolen millions. Had forged my signature to steal 18 million more. Was planning to seize control of legacy table holdings through litigation and fraud. I stared at Diane's photograph, tried to imagine what she would say. Forgive her. She's your daughter. But then I thought about the 2,400 employees who depended on Legacy Table for their livelihoods. The servers and line cooks and managers who'd worked for us for years, who'd sent their kids to college on the salaries we paid, who trusted that the company would be there tomorrow. I thought about the suppliers, the communities we served, the legacy Diane and I had spent 3 decades building. Natalie wasn't just stealing from me. She was stealing from all of them. I finished the bourbon, set down the glass. "Diane," I said to the photograph, "you'd want me to protect what we built. I know you would." The choice crystallized. Not revenge, justice. In early June, Jennifer called with an update that made my blood run cold. "Warren Trevor's been meeting someone regularly, a psychiatrist named Dr. Richard Crane, office in Green Hills. I ran a background check. And Dr. Crane has a gambling problem. He's into a bookie for $180,000. Payments 3 months overdue. The kind of debt that makes people desperate." I sat forward in my chair. "You think Trevor's leveraging the debt? I think Trevor found someone vulnerable, someone with the credentials to do something very specific. Warren, I need your permission to pursue this further. It might require surveillance that goes beyond what we've done so far." "What kind of surveillance?" "The kind that requires a warrant. I still have contacts at the FBI. If we can demonstrate probable cause that a federal crime is being planned, we can get authorization for a wiretap." I thought about Natalie at 5 years old stirring BBQ sauce in our kitchen. Then I thought about her email to Marcus Wellington. By the time he realizes what's happening, we'll own him. Do it. It took Jennifer 4 days to secure the warrant. She called me on a Friday evening, voice tight with urgency. "Warren, you need to hear this. I'm sending you an audio file, recorded yesterday. Trevor and Dr. Crane at a coffee shop in Brentwood." The file arrived 30 seconds later. I plugged in headphones, pressed play. Trevor's voice unmistakable. Dr. Crane, we've discussed this. I need a comprehensive psychiatric evaluation stating that Warren Fisher is suffering from advancing dementia, cognitive decline, inability to manage his own affairs. Doctor, Crane's voice hesitant. Mr. Blackwell, I can't diagnose someone I haven't examined. That's medical fraud. You can if I pay you $200,000, enough to clear your gambling debt and then some. I'm not asking you to make something up. I'm asking you to provide a professional opinion based on observed behaviors. Behaviors I'll document and provide to you. A pause. Then, what behaviors? Memory lapses, confusion, inability to recall basic business decisions. I'll give you affidavits from family members, from employees, all stating concerns about Warren's mental state. Forged affidavits. Does it matter? You'll write the evaluation. We'll file for conservatorship. Once the court appoints Natalie as conservator, she'll have legal authority over legacy table holdings. Full control. Warren won't be able to contest it because the court will have declared him incompetent. Another pause. Longer this time. 200,000. Wired to your account within 48 hours of filing. Conservatorship petition goes to court next month. August 15th. I need your evaluation completed by August 1st. All right, send me the documentation. The recording ended. I sat frozen, headphones still in my ears. My hands were shaking. Trevor Blackwell had just offered a licensed psychiatrist $200,000 to fabricate a dementia diagnosis, to declare me mentally incompetent, to give Natalie legal authority to seize my company through a conservatorship. They were going to lock me away, strip me of my rights, take everything Diane and I had built, and do it with a judge's signature. Jennifer's voice came through the phone, gentle but urgent. Warren, this is elder abuse. Conspiracy to commit fraud. These are federal crimes, and they're filing next month. They're ready to move. I pulled off the headphones, wiped my eyes. I hadn't realized I was crying. Tears of rage. Jennifer, how much time do we have? 6 weeks. Maybe less. If they file that conservatorship petition, and Crane's evaluation looks legitimate, a judge might grant it before you even have a chance to contest. We need to move now. Diane's face smiled at me from the mantel on the mantel. Thought about what she'd say if she could see what our daughter had become. While Jennifer focused on Natalie and Trevor, I asked James Whitfield to quietly investigate Marcus Wellington. If he'd bought stolen secrets, he was a co-conspirator. James started with the public record. Wellington Restaurant Ventures was a privately held company, but their expansion moves were documented through permit filings, real estate transactions, and business licenses. In mid-July, James spread a dozen printouts across my desk at Legacy Table Holdings headquarters. Warren, look at this timeline. I leaned forward. The documents showed Wellington's expansion pattern over the past 8 months. 3 new locations in Memphis, 2 in Knoxville, markets we'd been planning to enter for over a year, plans that had been stored in those files Natalie copied. Coincidence? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Not even close. Wellington filed permits for the Memphis location 4 days after Natalie met him at Husk. The Knoxville sites 2 weeks after that USB drive exchange Jennifer photographed. James pulled up another document, a menu from Wellington's new Memphis location. I stared at it. The appetizer section featured smoky Tennessee wings with a bourbon honey glaze. Our signature appetizer, developed by Diane 15 years ago, was called Nashville Hot Wings, with bourbon honey glaze. The ingredient list was identical down to the cayenne to brown sugar ratio. They didn't even change the name of the glaze, I said quietly. Gets worse. James laid out supplier contracts. Wellington's Memphis location uses the same meat supplier we've contracted with for 12 years. Same produce distributor, same beverage vendor. He's running a parallel supply chain to ours. Everything optimized, nothing wasted, because he knows exactly what works. I picked up one of the contracts, recognized the vendor's name immediately. They'd given Wellington a price point 3% lower than ours. How did he negotiate better rates than legacy table, volume commitment? He promised them business across 5 future locations, locked in pricing for 3 years. Warren, he knew our expansion timeline before we'd even finalized it. He outbid us for real estate, undercut our supplier pricing, and opened his locations 6 months ahead of our schedule. I set down the contract, felt the cold rage I'd been nurturing since that night with Diane's bourbon. He didn't just buy stolen information, he weaponized it. Yes. In early August, Jennifer came to Belle Meade with news that made the Wellington investigation shift from corporate espionage to something much larger. Warren. I reached out to my former colleagues at the FBI, explained what we'd found. They were very interested. Interested enough to investigate. Interested enough to open a case. White-collar crime division. They subpoenaed Wellington's financial records 4 days ago. She opened her laptop, pulled up a spreadsheet. Wellington Restaurant Ventures has been laundering the payments to Blackwell Ventures through a consulting firm Shell. $3.2 million coded as advisory services, market research. But the FBI traced the funds. Blackwell Ventures received the full amount in 2 wire transfers, January and March of this year. Can they prove Wellington knew the information was stolen? Better than that. They flipped one of Wellington's senior managers, guy named Rick Halstead, VP of Operations. He's facing charges for wire fraud conspiracy. The FBI offered him immunity in exchange for testimony. Jennifer clicked to another file, a deposition transcript. Halstead gave them everything. He was in the room when Wellington reviewed the stolen files. Says Wellington laughed about it. Quote, Marcus said we had an inside source at Legacy Table. Said Warren Fisher was too busy grieving his wife to notice his own daughter was selling him out. He called it the deal of the decade. I read the transcript twice, saw Wellington's arrogance laid out in black and white. What else did Halstead say? Wellington knew the intel was stolen, didn't care. Actively encouraged Natalie to provide more. He's the one who suggested she target the Memphis and Knoxville expansion plans specifically. He paid her a $50,000 bonus when she delivered the supplier contracts. $50,000. Blood money for betraying her own family. Jennifer pulled up another document, an email from Wellington to Natalie dated 6 months ago. From Monsieur Wellington. Strategies to N. Fisher. Consulting subject REQ2 intelligence package N. This is a gold mine. Your father's expansion strategy is textbook conservative, methodical, high margin. If you can keep your source happy and the intel flowing, we'll own the Tennessee market by year end. Already moving on the Memphis properties. Keep up the excellent work. M. Keep your source happy. I repeated. He's treating her like an asset, a paid informant. He is, and it gets worse. Wellington used the stolen expansion plans to sabotage your Memphis rollout. He contacted your target real estate properties and outbid you by exactly 10%. He knew your maximum budget because Natalie gave him the internal feasibility studies. I stood, walked to the window. Looked out at the Nashville skyline at the city where Diane and I had built our first restaurant 33 years ago. Marcus Wellington had taken our secrets, weaponized them, and tried to destroy us. And he'd done it with a smile, treating it like a game. Jennifer, what are the charges? Conspiracy to commit corporate espionage, wire fraud, racketeering, that's the big one. The FBI is arguing that Wellington ran an ongoing criminal enterprise. He systematically paid for stolen trade secrets, used them to harm a competitor, and profited from the conspiracy. Under federal RICO statutes, they can seize Wellington Restaurant Ventures as a criminal asset. His entire company. I turned back to face her. How long until they move on him? They're coordinating with the Natalie and Trevor prosecution. They want to take everyone down simultaneously. But Warren Wellington's going down hard. The U.S. attorney is treating this as a landmark case. Corporate espionage involving family betrayal, interstate wire fraud, racketeering. They're throwing everything at him. I allowed myself a cold smile. Oh, good. One less vulture circling my company. Jennifer closed her laptop. Warren, we're at 8 months of investigation. We have 3 major co-conspirators. Natalie, Trevor, and Wellington. 4 federal crimes. $21.2 million in theft and fraud. The FBI is ready to move. What do we need? One more piece. We need to tie Trevor directly to the conservatorship scheme. Once we have that, we arrest everyone, simultaneously. I thought about Diane's photograph on my mantle, about the company we'd built, about the 2,400 employees who deserved justice. Then let's get that last piece. 8 months into the investigation, Jennifer arranged a meeting with attorney Laura Bennett. It was time to build a formal prosecution strategy. Laura's office occupied the 14th floor of a glass tower in downtown Nashville, the kind of address that signaled serious legal firepower. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Cumberland River. The conference room was austere mahogany table leather chairs, walls lined with legal volumes and framed courtroom victories. We arrived at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday. Warren Fisher, Jennifer Walsh, James Whitfield, Aaron Fisher, and Laura Bennett herself, 45 years old, former federal prosecutor with the U.S. Attorney's Office, now running her own white-collar criminal defense and corporate litigation practice. She'd built a reputation taking down Fortune 500 executives for fraud and embezzlement. Jennifer had called her the best in the Southeast. Laura shook my hand with a grip that meant business. Mr. Fisher, Jennifer's briefed me on the general outline. Let's see what you've got. Jennifer opened her laptop and connected it to the conference room screen. We'll walk through this chronologically. 8 months of investigation. 4 major crimes. Multiple co-conspirators. Laura pulled out a yellow legal pad, uncapped a fountain pen. I'm listening. Jennifer started with Crime 1. The surveillance photographs from Husk appeared on the screen. Natalie and Marcus Wellington, the USB drive exchange, captured mid-motion. Then the digital forensics from Natalie's laptop. The 43 Proton Mail emails, the explicit discussion of stolen trade secrets. Corporate espionage, Jennifer said. $3.2 million paid from Wellington to an offshore shell company controlled by Trevor Blackwell. Natalie Fisher provided proprietary recipes, supplier contracts, and expansion plans to a direct competitor. We have the emails. We have the financial transfers. We have testimony from Wellington's VP of operations confirming he knew the intel was stolen. Laura made notes. Federal jurisdiction. Wire fraud across state lines. The emails and payments crossed Tennessee, Kentucky, and international borders via the Cayman Islands account. That's solid. What's next? James took over for Crime 2. The forged loan documents appeared on screen, the Pinnacle Bridge Capital Agreement, with my forged signature, the forensic document analysis from Dr. Ellen Voss, the wire transfer of $18 million to the same Blackwell Ventures account. Forgery and wire fraud, James explained. Trevor Blackwell used a lightbox technique to trace Warren's signature onto loan documents. $18 million fraudulently obtained. We have forensic proof the signature is forged. We have bank records showing the funds went to Trevor's offshore account. Pinnacle Bridge was going to sue for 51% of legacy table holdings as collateral. Laura looked up. Now that's identity theft, forgery, and wire fraud. Federal crimes. Strong case. Keep going. Jennifer pulled up the next file. The wiretap recording of Trevor and Dr. Richard Crane. Crime 3 Elder Abuse Conspiracy. Trevor Blackwell offered a licensed psychiatrist $200,000 to fabricate a dementia diagnosis for Warren Fisher. The goal was to file for conservatorship, which would give Natalie legal authority over legacy table holdings. We have the recorded conversation. We have evidence of Dr. Crane's gambling debts. We have the bribery offer on tape. Laura's pen moved faster. That's conspiracy to commit elder abuse, medical fraud, and bribery, all federal. You got this recording legally, FBI warrant. Probable cause based on the previous wire fraud evidence. Beautiful. And the fourth crime. Jennifer clicked to the final section. Marcus Wellington and Wellington Restaurant Ventures. Conspiracy to commit corporate espionage, wire fraud, and racketeering. Wellington paid for stolen trade secrets, used them to sabotage Legacy Table's expansion, and ran an ongoing criminal enterprise. The FBI has already seized his financial records. We have emails showing he knew the intel was stolen. We have testimony from his VP of Operations. Laura set down her pen, leaned back in her chair, looked at the screen at the mountain of evidence Jennifer had compiled over 8 months. This case is airtight, she said quietly. Digital forensics, financial records, recorded conversations, witness testimony, forensic document analysis. You've built a prosecution that leaves no reasonable doubt. So we can move forward, I asked. You can obliterate them. Laura picked up her pen again. Let me break down the federal charges. She wrote 4 names on her legal pad. Natalie Fisher, conspiracy to commit corporate espionage, wire fraud, conspiracy to commit elder abuse, and conspiracy to commit fraud. Federal sentencing guidelines put her at 10 to 15 years. No priors, so she might get the lower end. But with the elder abuse conspiracy, a judge isn't going to be lenient. Aaron's jaw tightened. I reached over, squeezed his shoulder. Trevor Blackwell, identity theft, forgery, wire fraud, conspiracy to commit elder abuse, conspiracy to commit fraud. Same sentencing range. 10 to 15 years. He's the architect of the conservatorship scheme, so the prosecution will argue for the maximum. Laura wrote the next name. Dr. Richard Crane, medical fraud, accepting a bribe, conspiracy to commit elder abuse. 8 to 10 years. He might cooperate for a reduced sentence, but a doctor who sells fake diagnoses, the medical board will revoke his license before he ever sees parole. And Wellington? James asked. Marcus Wellington and Wellington Restaurant Ventures, conspiracy to commit corporate espionage, wire fraud, and racketeering under the RICO Act. 8 to 10 years for Wellington personally. But here's the big one under federal RICO statutes. If the government proves his company was a criminal enterprise, they can seize Wellington Restaurant Ventures entirely. Every asset, every location, forfeiture. I thought about Wellington's email. This is a gold mine. Thought about him sabotaging our Memphis expansion, laughing about having an inside source. He deserves it, I said quietly. Laura nodded. Now here's your decision, Mr. Fisher. We have enough evidence to bring this to the FBI today. They can arrest everyone within a week. You'll get your justice. Natalie, Trevor Crane, and Wellington will all face federal charges. But, I heard the hesitation in her voice. But if you want to guarantee convictions, if you want to make this case so overwhelming that no defense attorney can create reasonable doubt, we set a trap. We let them incriminate themselves one more time. On tape. with witnesses present. I looked at Aaron. He nodded slightly. I looked at Jennifer. She smiled. I turned back to Laura. Tell me about that trap. The final 2 months of the investigation were the hardest. I stood in my home office surrounded by boxes filled with evidence of my daughter's crimes. 12 banker boxes lined the wall, each labeled with dates and crime categories. 3 external hard drives sat on my desk, containing gigabytes of encrypted emails, financial records, and surveillance footage. Forensic reports from Dr. Ellen Voss, witness depositions, bank statements, 8 months of methodical documentation, all pointing to one inescapable conclusion: my daughter had systematically betrayed everything Diane and I had built. I opened the first box. Inside were the surveillance photographs from Husk, the ones Jennifer had sent me back in February. Natalie's hand extended across the table, USB drive glinting in the Edison bulb light. Marcus Wellington reaching for it. That single moment, frozen in time, had been the beginning. The second box held printed emails. I pulled one out at random, dated 7 months ago. From nfisher.consulting to M. Wellington. Strategies dad's still too grieving over mom to pay attention to anything except quarterly numbers. By the time he realizes what's happening, we'll own him. I read it twice, felt the words like a physical blow. Too grieving over mom. She'd weaponized Diane's death, used my grief as cover, counted on me being too broken to notice her stealing our company out from under me. The third box contained Dr. Voss's forensic analysis of the Pinnacle Bridge loan documents, clinical language describing pen pressure stroke, sequencing the lightbox technique Trevor had used to trace my signature, $18 million of fraudulent debt created with a forged signature and a lightbox. The fourth box held the wiretap transcripts, Trevor's voice recorded and transcribed. I need a comprehensive psychiatric evaluation stating that Warren Fisher is suffering from advancing dementia. I set the transcript down, walked to the window, looked out at the Bellmead estate, the same view Diane and I had shared for 30 years. The fifth box contained bank statements. Jennifer had compiled a comprehensive financial summary, tracking every dollar Natalie and Trevor had stolen. $3.2 million from Wellington, $18 million from the fraudulent loan, smaller amounts from shell companies and consulting fees. The final tally highlighted in yellow, $21.2 million. $21.2 million. I opened the bottom drawer of my desk. Found a photograph I'd tucked away months ago, back when the investigation was just beginning, and I still hoped I was wrong. Natalie's college graduation, Vanderbilt University. 18 years old, cap and gown, and a smile that lit up the auditorium. Diane on her left, me on her right, all three of us beaming. I remembered that day so clearly. Diane whispering, "She's going to do amazing things, Warren. She's going to change the world." I stared at the photograph, at my daughter's face so full of hope and promise. Then I looked at the boxes of evidence, at the emails and bank statements and forensic reports, at the $21.2 million she'd stolen. She had changed the world, just not the way Diane had imagined. I set the photograph face down in the drawer, closed it. She chose this path, I said to the empty room. Every step, every decision, every betrayal. 2 weeks before the dinner, Natalie came to visit. She arrived alone mid-morning on a Saturday. No Trevor. That was deliberate, I knew. She wanted me to feel comfortable, safe, wanted to assess my condition without witnesses. I met her in the living room. We sat across from each other, coffee between us on the antique table Diane had restored 15 years ago. "Dad, you look tired," Natalie said, concern in her voice. Oscar-worthy concern. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just been busy at work." That's actually what I wanted to talk about. "Dad, you seem, I don't know, forgetful lately." At the last board meeting, you asked James the same question 3 times. And when I called last week, you didn't remember Aaron's birthday. I let my hand tremble slightly as I reached for the coffee cup. Knocked it over. Hot coffee spread across the table, soaking the napkins. Oh, damn. I'm sorry. It's okay, Dad. Natalie jumped up, grabbed paper towels from the kitchen, came back and cleaned up the spill, watching me the entire time. See, this is what I mean. You're not yourself. I rubbed my forehead, let my eyes go slightly vacant. I've just been stressed. The Memphis expansion isn't going well. Suppliers are backing out. I can't remember why. Because Wellington stole our plans and undercut us. But I didn't say that. Dad, have you thought about slowing down? Maybe letting someone else handle the day-to-day operations? There it was, the setup. Like who? Well, I've been thinking. I know the business inside and out. I could take on more responsibility. Make sure everything runs smoothly. You could focus on your health, spend time with Aaron, enjoy your retirement. I blinked slowly, as if processing the suggestion. Retirement. Not right away. Just eventually. Dad, I'm worried about you. Have you seen a doctor recently? Maybe someone who could evaluate whether you're handling the stress, okay? She was laying the groundwork, testing how receptive I'd be to a medical evaluation. Checking whether I'd resist if she suggested a psychiatrist. I let my shoulders slump. Maybe you're right. I'll think about it. Natalie smiled, reached across the table, squeezed my hand. I just want what's best for you, Dad. Mom would want me to take care of you. Mom would want me to take care of you. The audacity. Using Diane's memory to justify stealing my company. We talked for another 20 minutes. She asked about estate planning, about succession documents, about whether I'd updated my will recently. Each question carefully calibrated, gathering information for the conservatorship petition she and Trevor would file in 2 weeks. When she finally left, I walked her to the door, played the confused, grateful father. Watched her drive away in her Mercedes, satisfied that her plan was working. The moment her car disappeared down the drive, I stopped acting. My shoulders straightened, my expression hardened. I turned back toward the house. Aaron stepped out from the hallway where he'd been watching, staying out of sight. Dad, that performance was Oscar-worthy. Thanks for staying hidden. I needed her to think we were alone. Jennifer emerged from my office, laptop in hand. I got everything. Audio and video, legally recorded under Tennessee single-party consent laws. Warren, she just incriminated herself for the conservatorship petition. She held up a small recording device that had been hidden in a bookshelf. She asked if you'd seen a doctor, suggested you weren't handling stress, probed about estate planning and succession. That recording shows premeditation. She's establishing the narrative for the fake psychiatric evaluation. I looked out the window toward the spot where Natalie's car had been. 2 more weeks. 2 weeks until she and Trevor would arrive at this house expecting to present me with conservatorship papers. 2 weeks until they'd threatened to have me declared incompetent and locked away in a psychiatric facility. 2 weeks until she thought she'd won. Jennifer, are we ready? We're ready. Laura's finalizing the trap strategy with the FBI. When Natalie and Trevor come to that dinner, they'll be walking into a federal arrest. I nodded, thought about the 12 boxes of evidence in my office, about the $21.2 million, about Diane's photograph face down in the drawer. After Natalie left, Aaron couldn't contain his rage anymore. How could she do this? How could she look you straight in the eye and lie like that? He paced across my home office, fists clenched so tight his knuckles went white. His voice shook with betrayal so deep It felt like physical pain. She's my sister, Dad. Mom loved her. And today she sat in our living room and used Mom's memory to manipulate you. Mom would want me to take care of you. How long has she been planning this? At least 10 months. Maybe longer. A year. His voice cracked. And at Thanksgiving, when she smiled and hugged us, she was already selling us out. A nod was all I could manage. Erin's palm slammed against the desk. The sound echoed through the room. I want to confront her, right now. Drive to her house and tell her we know everything. No. The word came out harder than I intended. Erin, if you confront her now, she'll destroy evidence. We've spent 10 months building this case. We're 2 weeks away from justice. If you blow it now, Natalie walks free. Erin sank into the chair, burying his face in his hands. She weaponized Mom's funeral to steal from us. I know. We sat in silence. Through the window, the afternoon sun cast long shadows across the Belmead estate. The same grounds where Erin and Natalie had played as children. But she's family, Erin said, finally, voice barely above a whisper. I gave her 10 months of opportunities to stop, to show remorse. She didn't stop Erin, she escalated. The $18 million forgery happened while we were investigating her. The conservatorship scheme is happening right now. So she's not the sister I grew up with anymore. No, she's not. Erin wiped his eyes. I remember when I was 8. I fell off my bike, scraped my knee so bad I thought I was dying. She carried me home on her back, told me knights had to protect their kingdoms. He paused. She said Legacy Table was our kingdom, that we'd protect it together. She believed that then. What changed? I don't know. It doesn't matter anymore. What matters is what we do now. Erin rose. Steel filled his eyes. We finish this. For Mom. For the 2,400 people who work for us. Yes. 1 week later, we gathered in Laura Bennett's conference room for the final meeting. FBI Special Agent Kevin Walsh arrived at 9 a.m. sharp. 38 ex-military bearing with the precise demeanor that came from years dismantling complex financial crimes. He was one of the Bureau's best white-collar investigators. Jennifer had personally requested him. The group assembled around the mahogany table: myself, Jennifer James, Erin, Laura, and Agent Walsh. Walsh spent 45 minutes reviewing everything: the surveillance photographs, the emails, the forensic document analysis, the wiretap recording, the financial records showing $21.2 million in theft and fraud. He placed the final document on the table. This is one of the strongest white-collar cases I've ever seen. Corporate espionage, wire fraud, forgery, elder abuse conspiracy, racketeering. You've documented everything. Mr. Fisher, when this goes to trial, the defense will have nowhere to hide. So you'll move forward? Absolutely. The U.S. Attorney's Office has approved the operation. We're coordinating arrests across 4 targets: Natalie Fisher, Trevor Blackwell, Dr. Richard Crane, and Marcus Wellington. All simultaneous, all federal charges. Laura leaned forward. Agent Walsh, walk us through the logistics. Walsh pulled out a tactical map of the Belmead estate. We let them come to the dinner. Mr. Fisher, you'll invite Natalie, Trevor, and Erin to a family meal. Based on the conservatorship timeline, they'll bring the paperwork. They'll present the ultimatum, sign the papers, or we'll have you declared incompetent. That's when we move, Erin asked. Not immediately. We need them to incriminate themselves on tape. Mr. Fisher, you'll have recording devices throughout the dining room. Tennessee is a single-party consent state, so the recordings are legal. You'll engage them in conversation. Get them to explain the conservatorship plan. Get them to threaten you. How long? As long as it takes to get a clean confession. 10-20 minutes. The signal word will be, I didn't invite you here to negotiate. When you say that phrase, 6 FBI agents will enter the house. We'll have 2 unmarked vehicles staged outside out of sight. Natalie and Trevor will be arrested on the spot. And Crane Wellington, simultaneous arrests. The moment we move on, Natalie and Trevor teams will arrest Dr. Crane at his home and Marcus Wellington at his restaurant. All coordinated, all timed to the second. No one gets a chance to destroy evidence or flee. Jennifer nodded. What about the conservatorship filing? Once we arrest Trevor and Crane, the petition becomes evidence of conspiracy. The court will never see it. The tactical map spread across the table showed 6 FBI agent positions marked around my estate. In 2 weeks, my daughter would walk into my home expecting to take everything. Instead, she'd walk into handcuffs. Walsh extended his hand. I shook it. Mr. Fisher, your daughter is going to prison for a long time. Federal sentencing guidelines for these crimes are harsh. She's looking at 10 to 15 years minimum. The weight of it settled over me. When you arrest her, the words came slowly. She'll scream that I betrayed her, that I'm a monster, and part of me. My voice broke. Part of me will agree with her. Walsh's expression softened. Mr. Fisher, you didn't betray your daughter. Your daughter betrayed you. She stole from you, conspired to imprison you, tried to destroy your life's work. You're protecting yourself and the people who depend on you. That's not betrayal. That's justice. Aaron caught my eye across the table. He nodded. All right, I said. Let's finish this. If you've made it this far, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below sharing what you think Warren should do next. Should he go through with the trap? Or is there another way? Your perspective really matters to me. Quick reminder, this story contains fictional elements created for dramatic storytelling. If this type of content isn't for you, feel free to pause here. Otherwise, let's continue to the moment everything changes. 5 days before the scheduled dinner, I sent the formal invitation. Natalie, Trevor, and Aaron. An important family discussion at the Belle Meade estate, where Diane had died, where everything would end. The text went out at 9 a.m., simple, direct, no explanation. Dinner this Saturday, 6 p.m., Belle Meade. We need to discuss Legacy Table's future and some personal matters. Dad Natalie's response came within minutes. Of course, Dad. Trevor and I will be there. Love you. Love you. The words burned. Jennifer's call came 2 hours later. Warren, we intercepted a phone conversation. Natalie to Trevor. 30 seconds after she got your invitation. She played the audio file. Natalie's voice excited. He sent it. Saturday dinner. Important family discussion. Trevor, this is it. The old man's ready to give up. Trevor's voice smug. Finally, we'll bring the conservatorship papers. Have him sign before dessert. Once he's declared incompetent, everything transfers to you. Clean, legal. He looked so confused yesterday when I visited. Dr. Crane's evaluation will just be a formality. The court won't even question it. And if he resists, he won't. He's broken Trevor. Mom's death destroyed him. He barely remembers what day it is. Saturday night, Legacy Table becomes ours. Laughter. Cold. Triumphant. The recording ended. Jennifer's voice came back on the line. Warren, they're walking right into it. They think they've already won. Good. Let them think that. 3 days before the dinner, Laura Bennett's conference room became a tactical command center. Jennifer spread blueprints of the Belle Meade estate across the table. FBI agent Walsh stood beside her, marking positions with red pen. 6 agents, Walsh said. 2 in unmarked vans parked on the street half a mile out. 2 posing as landscaping crew working on the property next door. 2 inside, 1 as catering staff, 1 monitoring audio from the basement. Natalie will recognize catering staff? Aaron objected. Not these. We're using agents from the Atlanta field office. No Nashville connections. Your father will tell Natalie he hired a new service for the evening. Plausible. Laura tapped the dining room on the blueprint. Recording devices. 4 cameras. 2 ceiling mounted in the crown molding, invisible unless you're looking for them. 2 in the sideboard disguised as decorative pieces. Audio pickups in the chandelier and under the table. Everything records to encrypted servers off-site. Even if they find and destroy the physical devices, we keep the footage. Legal, I asked. Single-party consent. You're the homeowner. You're authorizing the recording. Completely legal in Tennessee. Any defense attorney who challenges it will lose. Jennifer turned to Aaron. Your role is simple. Silent observer. You're there as family, but you don't engage unless your father signals you. If Trevor or Natalie try to leave before the FBI enters, you block the door. Don't touch them. Just stand in the doorway. What's the signal? Your father will say, Aaron, would you get me a glass of water? That means they're attempting to flee. Position yourself at the exit. Aaron nodded, face grim. Walsh checked his watch. Dinner is Saturday at 6 p.m. FBI moves into position at 4 p.m. Mr. Fisher, you'll begin recording the moment they arrive. Keep them talking. The longer they explain their plan, the stronger our case. And the signal word, I didn't invite you here to negotiate. The moment you say that phrase, we enter. 30 seconds from signal to entry. Natalie and Trevor will be in handcuffs within 60 seconds. The room fell silent. Gentlemen, Walsh said quietly, in 72 hours, this operation goes live. Everyone clear on their roles, murmurs of agreement. One day before the dinner, I walked through the Belle Meade estate alone. Each room held Diane like a ghost. The living room where she used to read by the fireplace, knees tucked under her glasses, perched on her nose. I could still see her there, smiling up at me over the edge of a book. The kitchen, where she'd perfected our BBQ sauce recipe, arguing with me about cayenne ratios while flour dusted her apron. The same recipe Natalie sold for $3.2 million. The bedroom where Diane had died. Sunlight streaming through windows she'd picked out 20 years ago. The bed where I'd held her hand that final morning. I stood in the doorway, couldn't bring myself to enter. I'm sorry, I whispered to the empty room. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. Finally, I descended to the dining room. The table sat empty. 8 chairs. Crystal chandelier overhead, the one Diane had insisted on, vintage 1920s, shipped from an estate sale in Virginia. She'd loved how the light caught the crystals. 2 FBI cameras were hidden in the crown molding. I couldn't see them. Wouldn't have known they were there if Walsh hadn't shown me. The sideboard held recording devices disguised as silver candlesticks. Audio pickups in the chandelier and beneath the table captured every word. This room had hosted Thanksgiving dinners, birthday celebrations, business victories. Diane's laughter had filled these walls. Tomorrow it would become a federal crime scene. I moved to the far wall. Our wedding photo hung there, Diane in white, me in a tuxedo, 2 sizes too big, both of us grinning like fools. 35 years ago, young and broke and in love, planning to open a single barbecue restaurant in downtown Nashville. We'd built an empire. $890 million, 90 locations, 2,400 employees. And our daughter was trying to steal it all. My fingers traced the frame's edge. "Tomorrow, Diane," I said to her frozen smile. "I keep my promise tomorrow." A single tear tracked down my cheek. I didn't wipe it away. Tomorrow Natalie would sit at this table and threaten to have me committed. Would present forged psychiatric evaluations and conservatorship papers. Would tell me I was incompetent, broken, too grief-stricken to manage my own life. And I would let her talk. Let her dig her own grave with every word. Then I would say 5 words: "I didn't invite you here to negotiate," and 6 FBI agents would end her freedom forever. Justice for Diane. Justice for the 2,400 people who depended on Legacy Table. Justice for Aaron, who'd lost his sister to greed. I turned off the dining room lights. The chandelier went dark. 10 months of investigation. 33 years of building before that. Everything led to tomorrow. My phone buzzed. Jennifer's text appeared on the screen: "FBI in position. All systems operational. See you at 6 p.m. I typed back a single word. "Ready?" Upstairs, I passed Aaron's old bedroom. The door stood open. He'd stayed here last night, too tense to go home. His silhouette moved past the window, pacing, preparing. My son was ready to watch his sister arrested. I was ready to give the order. Tomorrow at 6 p.m., the trap would spring. Tomorrow, Natalie would learn that grief hadn't made me weak. It had made me patient. 10 months of preparation led to this moment. 6 p.m. guests arriving. Time for my final performance. Natalie and Trevor pulled up together in Trevor's black Mercedes 20 minutes late. Fashionably late, Natalie would call it. Strategically late, more accurately letting me wait, establishing dominance. The doorbell rang. I opened it myself, no staff, just family. "Sweetheart." I embraced Natalie, feeling her stiffen slightly. She wasn't used to me initiating affection anymore. "Hi, Dad. You look tired." "Long week," I said vaguely, turning to Trevor. His handshake was too firm, his smile too wide. "Warren, thanks for having us." Aaron arrived 5 minutes later, parking his own car at the far end of the drive. His face was a mask, tense but controlled. He hugged Natalie briefly, shook Trevor's hand without making eye contact. "Aaron," Natalie said warmly, "how's the hotel business?" "Fine." Monosyllabic. "Perfect." I led them to the dining room. The table gleamed under the chandelier, Diane's chandelier now hiding 2 FBI cameras. Crystal glasses caught the light. White linens, silver that had been in Diane's family for generations. The meal I'd chosen was deliberate. Filet mignon, roasted asparagus, Diane's favorite Bordeaux from the cellar. Everything she would have served for an important family dinner. Everything they wouldn't appreciate. I seated Natalie at Diane's place. She didn't notice the significance. We sat, Aaron across from me, Natalie to my right, Trevor to my left, too close, invading space. I poured wine with deliberately unsteady hands. The bottleneck rattled against Natalie's glass. "Sorry," I blinked, confused. "Is this the Bordeaux or the Burgundy?" Trevor's mouth twitched. "Bordeaux, I think." "Right. Yes, I trailed off, staring at the label like I couldn't quite read it. Natalie and Trevor exchanged a glance. Quick. Triumphant. The catering staff entered FBI Agent Ramirez in a white jacket. Dark hair pulled back anonymous. She set down plates with professional efficiency. "Thank you," I said, then frowned at the steak. "What? What cut is this again?" "Filet mignon, Mr. Fisher." Agent Ramirez's voice was neutral. "Oh, yes. Diane always—" I stopped, rubbed my forehead. I'm sorry, what were we talking about? Aaron's fork scraped his plate. The sound echoed. Dinner progressed in careful stages. I ate slowly, missing my mouth once, letting wine dribble slightly down my chin before catching it with a napkin. Small details, subtle decay. Natalie watched me like a scientist observing a specimen. Trevor carved his steak with aggressive precision knife sawing through meat. Warren, I wanted to ask about the Knoxville expansion. That's still moving forward, right? Knoxville. I blinked at him. Did I approve that? You did. Last board meeting. James Whitfield presented the feasibility study. Oh. I stared at my plate. I can't quite remember. Natalie's hand covered mine, patronizing. It's okay, Dad. That's what we're here to discuss. You've been under so much stress. Maybe it's time to let us help more. Help. I repeated the word like I didn't understand it. With the company, with decisions. You shouldn't have to carry all this alone. Trevor leaned back, wine glass cradled in his palm. Legacy table is too big for one person to manage anymore, Warren. Especially someone dealing with... He paused delicately. Grief, memory issues. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Aaron's knuckles went white on his fork. Inside my head, I counted every tell, every carefully crafted mistake. The trembling hand, the confused pauses, the vacant stare when Trevor mentioned board meetings. They thought I was broken. They had no idea I was watching them reveal themselves with every sympathetic smile. The internal monologue continued. Every trembling hand, every confused look. I'm watching them lower their guard. They think they're minutes away from total control. Natalie sipped her wine. And Dad, do you remember signing any loan documents recently for Pinnacle Bridge Capital? I squinted at her. Pinnacle? No, I don't think so. Should I have? It's fine. Her voice dripped false comfort. Trevor's been handling the complicated stuff. You don't need to worry about it. There it is. Admission number 1. Trevor's been handling things. Things I never authorized. Dessert arrived at 7:15. Crème brûlée. Diane had always insisted on French pastry for special occasions. I fumbled with my spoon, tapping the caramelized sugar too hard. It shattered, sending shards across the tablecloth. I'm sorry, It's okay, Dad. Natalie's patience sounded rehearsed. Aaron, could you help Dad with that? I've got it. Aaron's voice was tight. He slid a fresh dessert toward me without meeting Natalie's eyes. 7:25. Agent Ramirez cleared plates. 7:30. The table was empty except for wine glasses. Natalie set her glass down with a soft clink. The sound felt deliberate. Final. Dad! Her voice shifted. Less comfort, more business. We need to discuss something important. Trevor reached beneath his chair, pulled out a leather briefcase. The clasps snapped open with metallic precision. Papers, a stack of them. White, crisp, official. Trevor aligned the edges with compulsive neatness, then slid the stack across the table toward me. The documents came to rest in front of my plate. I stared at them, affecting confusion, blinking slowly. What is this? Natalie leaned forward. Her expression had changed. The concerned daughter mask was slipping. Transfer documents, Dad, for legacy table holdings. She spoke slowly, like talking to a child. We're making some changes, for your own good. Changes, I echoed. Dad, you're not well. Her hand gestured vaguely at me at the spilled wine, the shattered creme brulee, the confused pauses throughout dinner. You can't keep running a company in your condition. It's not safe. Not for you, not for the business. Trevor opened the top page, pointed to signature lines marked with yellow tabs. These are conservatorship documents, Warren. With these, Natalie becomes your legal guardian. She'll handle finances, medical decisions, business operations, everything. You won't have to worry anymore. Aaron's chair scraped backward an inch. Trevor's eyes flicked toward him, then away. My hands trembled as I reached for the papers. Let my fingers shake. Final performance. Make it count. The first page, petition for conservatorship. Warren Allen Fisher, the second medical evaluation, Dr. Richard Crane, MD, recommends immediate conservatorship due to advancing dementia, impaired judgment, inability to manage affairs. All lies. All carefully fabricated. All exactly what Jennifer had warned me about 6 weeks ago. I flipped through the stack. Transfer of voting rights. Assignment of financial authority. Dissolution of prior estate planning. Everything designed to strip me of control. Everything Natalie and Trevor thought would give them legacy table. I let the papers tremble in my grasp. Raised my eyes to Natalie. I don't understand. Natalie's smile turned cold, sharp, the mask finally gone. You don't need to understand, Dad. She produced a pen from her purse, set it on top of the documents. You just need to sign. Trevor opened the folder explaining each document like he was selling insurance. But this wasn't insurance. This was a robbery. These documents transfer operational control of legacy table holdings to Natalie. Trevor's finger traced the signature lines. As your daughter and primary caregiver, she's in the best position to make decisions about the company's future. The conservatorship ensures continuity of leadership while protecting your personal interests. Protecting. The word was a knife wrapped in silk. But... My voice came out weak, confused. Perfect. The company. I built it. You built it. Trevor's tone shifted, losing the false sympathy. Past tense, Warren. You're 60 years old, declining health, memory issues. You've had a good run. It's time to step back. Let the next generation take over. Next generation. He meant himself. A man who'd married into the family 2 years ago and decided he owned everything. Natalie pushed another document across the mahogany. Dr. Richard Crane's letterhead. Medical evaluation. The lies typed in clinical language. Patient exhibits signs of advancing dementia, short-term memory impairment, confusion regarding basic business operations, impaired judgment. Patient poses a danger to himself and to shareholders of legacy table holdings. Recommend immediate conservatorship. Trevor tapped the signature. Dr. Crane is one of Nashville's most respected psychiatrists. His evaluation will hold up in any court. The judge won't even question it. Because Dr. Crane was paid $200,000 to write fiction. Because his gambling debts made him desperate. Because Trevor had turned a licensed physician into an accomplice. All of it captured on the recording devices hidden above us. Aaron shifted in his seat. A muscle jumped in his cheek. His fork rested beside his plate untouched. I let my hands tremble. Let confusion cloud my expression. I don't understand why Natalie's voice cut through mine like glass shattering. Dad, you can barely remember what day it is. At dinner tonight, you forgot what you ordered. You spilled wine. You asked the same question 3 times. You're not capable of running a company anymore. Every word was bait. Every accusation designed to make them dig deeper. But I gave you everything. My voice cracked. Genuine pain mixed with performance. Your mother and I, Mom's dead. Natalie's words landed like a slap. She's been dead for 4 years, Dad, and you've been falling apart ever since. Legacy Table is worth $890 million, 2,400 employees, 90 locations. You think we're going to let you destroy that because you're too stubborn to admit you need help. We. She said we, Trevor and Natalie. A unit. A conspiracy. Trevor leaned forward, elbows on the table, invading space, establishing dominance. Warren, let me be clear. Sign these documents tonight. Transfer authority to Natalie, and this stays private. Family matter. Handled quietly. You keep your dignity, your reputation. You retire to Belle Meade live comfortably, and the company continues under competent leadership. And if I don't sign, Trevor's smile didn't reach his eyes. Then Monday morning, Dr. Crane files his evaluation with Davidson County Probate Court. We petition for emergency conservatorship. The judge appoints a guardian, which will be Natalie given that she's your only daughter and has been helping manage operations for 2 years. The court proceeding becomes public record. Every business journal in America runs the story, Legacy Table founder declared incompetent. Your legacy becomes a cautionary tale about old men who don't know when to quit. The threat hung in the air. Brutal. Calculated. Either way, you lose control, Trevor continued. This way is just, cleaner, less humiliating, a dignified transition instead of a public collapse. Aaron's knuckles went white on his fork. Natalie reached across the table. Her hand covered mine. Cold fingers. No warmth. Dad, I'm not doing this to hurt you. I'm doing this because I love you. Because Mom would want me to take care of you. You need rest. You need to let go. Sign the papers. Let me handle everything. It'll be okay. Let me handle everything. The words she'd said 4 years ago when Diane died. When I'd stepped back to care for my dying wife. When Natalie had volunteered to manage operations. When she'd started stealing. I let silence fill the room. Let them think I was processing, considering surrender. Then I asked the question, voice small, trembling, the perfect performance. But why Natalie, really why? Something shifted in her expression. The concerned daughter mask cracked, then shattered completely. She leaned back in her chair, crossed her arms. The pretense of love evaporated. Because I deserve this. Her voice turned cold, hard. I ran everything while you were busy grieving. I made the expansion decisions. I negotiated the supplier contracts. I kept Legacy Table profitable while you sat in this house crying over Mom's memory. I know the company better than you do now. I understand the markets, the competition, the opportunities. You're a relic, Dad. A dinosaur. A sad old man clinging to past glory because you can't accept that your time is over. Trevor smiled. Victorious. Natalie wasn't done. You think I owe you gratitude for what? For building a company and then checking out when Mom died? I've worked my ass off for 2 years holding everything together. This isn't theft. This is succession. You're just too proud and too senile to see it. Natalie. No. She slammed her palm on the table. Glasses jumped. I'm done pretending. Mom's dead. You're old. You're incompetent. And I'm taking what's mine. Sign the papers or don't sign them. Either way, by Monday afternoon, I'll be running Legacy Table Holdings. The only question is whether you make this easy or hard. Aaron's chair scraped backward 1/2 inch. Trevor put his hand on Natalie's arm, calming her, reining her in. But the damage was done. She'd confessed everything. Motive, intent, contempt. There it is, I thought. Confession captured on 4 cameras. Audio recording from 3 sources. Aaron as witness. Jennifer Walsh listening from the basement. FBI agents outside processing every word. She just convicted herself. I let the silence stretch. 1 beat, 2 beats. 3. Trevor and Natalie watched me, waiting for submission, for the signature that would give them everything. Aaron met my eyes across the table. Ready. Outside, 6 FBI agents surrounded the house. Ready? 10 months of investigation. $21.2 million in evidence. 4 federal crimes documented. All leading to this moment. I reached for my fork, placed it on my plate with a deliberate clink. The sound echoed in the silent dining room. The tremor in my hands stopped. My spine straightened. My eyes, confused and vacant for the past 90 minutes, sharpened into focus. I met my daughter's gaze across the mahogany table, across Diane's crystal, across the ruins of what used to be a family. You're mistaken about something, Natalie. My hand moved beneath my chair, not reaching for the pen to sign, reaching for the laptop I'd hidden there this morning. The trembling stopped. My spine straightened as I rose to my feet. Natalie's eyes narrowed. Dad, what are you? I opened the laptop. A projector descended from the ceiling. The dining room lights dimmed. The wall behind Natalie became a 10-foot screen. What the hell is this? Trevor pushed back from the table. Sit down. My voice came out steady, clear. I clicked the first slide. An email appeared. 10-foot letters. From N. Fisher. Consulting to M. Wellington. Strategies. Marcus, as discussed, I'm prepared to provide proprietary intel on Legacy Table's operations in exchange for the terms we outlined. And Natalie's mouth opened. No sound came out. Click. Bank statements. Cayman National Bank. Blackwell Ventures, LLC. Wire transfer $3,200,000. Click. Surveillance photograph. Natalie and Marcus Wellington at Husk. The USB drive mid-exchange. Click. Another email. Dad's still too grieving over Mom to pay attention. By the time he realizes what's happening, we'll own him. Natalie stood. Her chair scraped backward. You fabricated this. You Taitika click. Forensic document analysis. The Pinnacle Bridge loan. My signature forged. $18 million. Trevor's face went white. Click. Audio file. I pressed play. Trevor's voice filled the room. Dr. Crane, I need a psychiatric evaluation, stating that Warren Fisher is suffering from advancing dementia. Mr. Blackwell. I can't diagnose someone I haven't examined. You can if I pay you $200,000. I stopped the audio. Silence. I've known for 10 months, I said quietly. Every meeting with Wellington, every forged signature, every lie. I documented everything. Jennifer. The kitchen door opened. Jennifer Walsh stepped into the dining room, FBI credentials clipped to her belt. Good evening, Miss Fisher, Mr. Blackwell. Natalie collapsed back into her chair. Dad, you were acting this whole time. Every confused look, every trembling hand. Yes. Her face cycled through emotions. Shock, disbelief, denial. This is fake. Those emails are fabricated. You're trying to frame me. The FBI confirmed the accounts are real, Jennifer said. Marcus Wellington's VP testified under oath. Everything you're seeing is evidence that will be presented at your trial. Trial. Natalie's voice pitched higher. Dad, please, we can work this out. I'll pay it back. Just, please, I'm your daughter. You were my daughter, until you decided Legacy Table was worth more than family. Trevor surged to his feet, bolted for the door. Aaron moved, positioned himself in the doorway, arms crossed. Trevor skidded to a stop. Get out of my way! Sit down, Trevor. Aaron's voice was iron. Move. Trevor shoved him, hard. Aaron didn't budge. Caught Trevor's wrist mid-swing, applied pressure. I said sit down. Trevor stumbled backward. Natalie whirled on me, face twisted with fury. You're destroying your own daughter. I tried to take over a company I've been running for 2 years. I deserve Legacy Table. You stole it. $21.2 million. Corporate espionage. Wire fraud. Forgery. Elder abuse conspiracy. I'm your child. Yes, and that's what made this investigation so painful. I walked to the window, pulled back the curtain. 2 unmarked FBI vehicles sat at the end of the driveway. It's over, Natalie. The FBI is outside. You're insane. I'm the only sane person at this table, and you just confessed to everything on camera. I pointed to the hidden cameras in the crown molding. 4 cameras, 3 audio sources, 90 minutes of footage, all recorded, all legal. I spoke the signal phrase. I didn't invite you here to negotiate. 5 seconds later, the front door burst open. FBI SWAT team. 6 agents in tactical gear. Special Agent Kevin Walsh entered first. FBI nobody move. Walsh approached the table, pulled out handcuffs. Natalie Fisher, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit wire fraud, corporate espionage, elder abuse, and identity theft. He recited Miranda rights, each word clinical. Final. Natalie didn't resist, just stood there as Walsh secured the handcuffs. Another agent approached Trevor. Trevor Blackwell, you're under arrest. Trevor's head dropped. Natalie turned to me, handcuffs glinting under Diane's chandelier. I'm your daughter. I met her eyes, felt the weight of it. I know, I said softly. That's what made this so hard. Agents escorted them toward the door. Natalie stumbled. An agent steadied her. At the threshold, she looked back. One last time. I didn't look away. Then they were gone. The front door closed. Engines started outside. Aaron and I stood in the dining room, alone. I walked to the window, watched the FBI vehicles roll down the drive, red and blue lights reflecting off the iron gates. Natalie's face was pressed to the glass in the back of the lead vehicle. Watching me, no arrogance left, just shock. Trevor sat in the second vehicle, head down. The gates opened, the vehicles disappeared. Silence settled over Belle Meade. Aaron moved beside me, put his hand on my shoulder. It's done, Dad. I nodded, couldn't speak. It's done. Wow, that was a lot. If you made it through that confrontation, drop a comment below and tell me, did Warren do the right thing, or did he cross a line? I'm really interested in your take on this. Quick heads up. The story contains fictionalized details for storytelling purposes. If you'd rather not continue, feel free to stop here. But if you want to see what happens in the aftermath, stay with me. Aaron and I stood in the dining room after the FBI left. Silence pressed down. The smell of steak and betrayal still hung in the air. The table remained set, crystal glasses half full, Natalie's wine untouched. the conservatorship documents scattered where she'd left them. Aaron moved first, started clearing plates. I joined him. We worked without speaking, carrying dishes to the kitchen. A simple act. Symbolic. Dad. Aaron set down a stack of plates. His voice was quiet. Did we do the right thing? The question I'd been asking myself for 10 months. We did what your mother wanted. I rinsed a wine glass under the faucet. We protected what she built. We protected 2,400 families who depend on Legacy Table for their livelihoods. We stopped a conspiracy that would have destroyed everything Diane and I spent 33 years creating. But she's in handcuffs, in a federal holding cell. Our family is broken. I finished his sentence. Our family broke the moment Natalie decided money was worth more than loyalty. Aaron leaned against the counter. Will you ever forgive her? I dried the glass, placed it carefully in the cabinet. Diane's cabinet, her grandmother's crystal. I don't know, son. The honesty hurt. Ask me in 10 years. What if she writes from prison? Then I'll read it, and I'll decide then. I turned to face him. But tonight I don't have forgiveness in me. I have justice, and that'll have to be enough. Aaron nodded slowly, picked up another plate. We finished cleaning in silence. Father and son, the only family I had left. At 11:45 p.m., my phone rang. Agent Walsh. Mr. Fisher, Dr. Richard Crane has been arrested. FBI raided his residence in Green Hills 20 minutes ago. He's cooperating fully. Confessed to the bribery scheme, provided documentation of the $200,000 payment agreement, implicated Trevor Blackwell as the architect. I sat heavily in my desk chair. And his medical license, Tennessee Board of Medical Examiners will have it revoked by end of week. He'll never practice medicine again. Even if he gets a reduced sentence for cooperation, his career is over. Good. Walsh paused. Mr. Fisher Crane is devastated. Says he made a terrible mistake. Says the gambling debts clouded his judgment. He took money to declare an innocent man incompetent. He conspired to strip me of my rights. His regret doesn't interest me. Understood. We'll keep you updated. The call ended at 11:52 p.m. I didn't sleep. Sat in my office, Diane's photo on the desk, waiting. At 7 a.m., Walsh called again. Marcus Wellington arrested 30 minutes ago. We sent a team to his flagship restaurant in Brentwood at 6 a.m. He wasn't there. Turns out he'd driven to Nashville International Airport. Tried to board a flight to Cancun, Mexico. TSA flagged him. We found $500,000 cash in his carry-on luggage. Flight risk. Literally. Judge will deny bail based on that alone. Wellington's attorneys are already trying to negotiate, but the U.S. attorney isn't interested. We've got him on corporate espionage, wire fraud, racketeering. The RICO charges mean we can seize Wellington Restaurant Ventures entirely. Every location, every asset. Federal forfeiture. I allowed myself a grim smile. His company becomes government property until it's sold at auction to pay restitution. Mr. Fisher Wellington built that empire on stolen trade secrets. The law says proceeds of criminal enterprise belong to the victims. You'll likely recover significant damages. I don't want his money. I want him in prison. You'll get both. At 8:15 a.m., Laura Bennett called. Warren, all 4 defendants are in federal custody. Natalie and Trevor at the Metro Nashville Detention Facility. Crane at Davidson County. Wellington just arrived after his airport arrest. Arraignment is scheduled for Monday morning, 10 a.m. Federal Courthouse. Judge Patricia Morrison presiding. She's tough. Former prosecutor. No sympathy for white-collar criminals. Will they get bail? Doubtful. Flight risks severity of charges, amount of money involved. The prosecution will argue they're dangers to the community and likely to flee. Wellington already tried. That'll influence the judge's decision on the others. And the timeline. Grand jury indictment within 2 weeks. Trial in 6 to 9 months. Federal cases move slower than state, but the evidence is overwhelming. Expect plea deal offers. Trevor and Natalie might try to flip on each other. Let them. At 9 a.m., Nashville exploded. Every local news station led with the story. My phone lit up with alerts. Nashville restaurant. CEO's daughter arrested in $21 million fraud scheme. Legacy Table founder exposes family theft ring. FBI arrests 4 in corporate espionage case. News vans surrounded. Bell Mead by 9:30. Reporters camped at the gates. Cameras pointed at the house. My phone rang nonstop. Journalists, investors, business associates, friends I hadn't spoken to in years. I ignored them all. At 10 a.m., James Whitfield called from Legacy Table headquarters. Warren, the staff knows. News broke 20 minutes ago. I've called an emergency all-hands meeting for 11 a.m. People are shocked, confused. Some are crying. They want to hear from you. I'm not ready to make a statement. You don't have to. I'll handle it. But Warren, they're behind you. Every single person I've talked to. They're grateful you stopped this. They understand what Natalie tried to do. You saved their jobs, their livelihoods. Something in my chest loosened slightly. Thank you, James. I mean it. 2,400 people owe you everything. I'll make sure they know that. At 11 a.m., I watched James's company-wide address on my laptop. He stood in the headquarters atrium, all 90 locations connected via video conference. Legacy Table Holdings is safe, James said, voice steady. Thanks to Warren Fisher's courage and 10 months of investigation, a conspiracy to steal this company has been stopped. 4 people, including Warren's own daughter, have been arrested on federal charges. This is a painful day for the Fisher family, but it's a victory for every person in this room. Warren Fisher protected this company and all of us. When we return to work tomorrow, we do so knowing that Legacy Table's future is secure. Applause echoed through the feed. Genuine. Emotional. I closed the laptop. Couldn't watch anymore. At noon, I sat in my office, turned on the television. Cable news had picked up the story. A reporter stood outside the federal courthouse. This case proves that white-collar crime can happen anywhere, even within families. Warren Fisher, a successful restaurateur, spent 10 months investigating his own daughter. The betrayal is staggering. The dollar amount is staggering. But perhaps most staggering is the courage it took to pursue justice against his own child. My phone rang again, and again, and again. I muted it. Turned off the TV. Diane's photograph sat on my desk. Her wedding smile. The same smile I'd fallen in love with 40 years ago. I picked up the frame, traced her face with my thumb. We did it, sweetheart. My voice cracked. We protected what we built. I kept my promise. The photograph didn't answer, but I felt her presence. In the silence. In the empty house. In the knowledge that Legacy Table would survive. Justice had been served. Now came the hard part, living with it. 9 months after the arrests, I walked through the metal detectors at the federal courthouse on 801 Broadway. The weight of the investigation had shifted from surveillance and evidence gathering to something far more public, a trial before a jury of 12 strangers who would decide the fate of my daughter, her husband, and their co-conspirators. The courtroom itself felt smaller than I'd imagined. Judge Patricia Morrison presided from the bench, a woman in her late 50s with a reputation for no-nonsense rulings and airtight trial management. The prosecution sat at one table, 3 assistant U.S. attorneys led by Sarah Mitchell, a sharp woman in her early 40s who'd built her career prosecuting white-collar crime. At the defense table sat 4 lawyers, expensive ones, each representing one of the 4 defendants: Natalie Fisher, Trevor Blackwell, Dr. Richard Crane, and Marcus Wellington. Jury selection had taken 2 weeks. 12 jurors, 2 alternates. The gallery behind me was packed with reporters, curious onlookers, and a handful of legacy table employees who'd asked for the day off to attend. Erin sat beside me, silent and tense. Jennifer Walsh sat 3 rows back. Her arms crossed, her expression unreadable. The trial began with opening statements. The prosecution's case unfolded like a documentary. Assistant U.S. Attorney Sarah Mitchell stood before the jury and outlined the conspiracy in clear, methodical terms. Corporate espionage, wire fraud, forgery, elder abuse conspiracy, racketeering. 4 defendants, $21.2 million in theft and fraud. The evidence came next. Emails appeared on the courtroom screen, messages between n.fisher.consulting@protonmail.com and m.wellington, strategies@protonmail.com. The jury read them in silence. As discussed, I'm prepared to provide proprietary intel on Legacy Table's operations. Bank statements from Cayman National Bank followed. Wire transfer $3,200,000. Origin Wellington Restaurant Ventures. Destination Blackwell Ventures, LLC. Surveillance photos, Natalie and Marcus Wellington at Husk A USB drive mid-exchange. Then came the recording. The prosecution played the audio of Trevor bribing Dr. Crane. The courtroom went silent as Trevor's voice filled the room. $200,000, cash. You write the evaluation, I handle the rest. Crane's reply: what specifically are we diagnosing? Trevor: dementia, cognitive decline, danger to himself and shareholders. The jury's faces hardened. Dr. Ellen Voss, the forensic document examiner, testified next. She displayed the forged Pinnacle Bridge Capital loan documents. On the screen, Warren Fisher's signature traced with precision, but lacking the natural pen pressure variation of a genuine signature. This is a forgery, she stated flatly, likely created using a lightbox or digital overlay. Jennifer Walsh took the stand. She walked the jury through 10 months of surveillance wiretaps and financial forensics. She detailed Natalie's meetings with Wellington, Trevor's coordination with Dr. Crane, the offshore accounts, the conservatorship plan. James Whitfield testified about the fraudulent loan and the $18 million forgery that nearly bankrupted Legacy Table Holdings. A senior manager from Wellington Restaurant Ventures, granted immunity in exchange for testimony, confirmed that Marcus Wellington knew the intel was stolen and had paid Natalie directly for it. Then it was my turn. The prosecution called me to the stand. Sarah Mitchell's questions were direct. Mr. Fisher, when did you first suspect your daughter was involved in corporate espionage? My voice stayed steady. 4 months after my wife's funeral, I noticed financial irregularities, expansion plans leaked to a competitor, supplier contracts that shouldn't have been accessible. And what did you do? I hired a private investigator, Jennifer Walsh, former FBI. I wanted the truth. And when you discovered that truth, when you learned your daughter was conspiring to steal from you, to forge your signature, to have you declared incompetent, what did you feel? The courtroom went silent. Heartbroken, I said quietly. But I had a responsibility. To my late wife, to 2,400 employees who depend on Legacy Table for their livelihoods. I couldn't let sentiment override justice. The defense cross-examined me aggressively. Natalie's lawyer painted me as a vindictive father who'd entrapped his own daughter. Trevor's lawyer claimed the FBI had engaged in entrapment. Sarah Mitchell shut it down on redirect. Mr. Fisher, did you coerce your daughter into sending those emails? No. Did you force Trevor Blackwell to bribe Dr. Crane? No. Did you manipulate Marcus Wellington into paying $3.2 million for stolen trade secrets? No. I documented what they did. I didn't create it. The defense strategies collapsed one by one. Natalie's lawyer argued she'd been manipulated by Trevor, that she was a grieving daughter who'd trusted the wrong man. The jury didn't buy it. The emails were too cold, too calculated. Trevor's lawyer claimed entrapment, but the recording of him bribing Dr. Crane had been obtained legally through a federal wiretap warrant. No entrapment, just a criminal incriminating himself. Dr. Crane pleaded guilty mid-trial. His lawyer negotiated a deal 8 years in federal prison in exchange for full cooperation. Marcus Wellington's defense argued he hadn't known the intel was stolen, but his own senior manager testified otherwise. Marcus knew. He joked about it, called Natalie his gold mine. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they returned, the courtroom held its breath. Judge Morrison asked the foreman to stand. On the charge of conspiracy to commit wire fraud, how do you find the defendant, Natalie Fisher, guilty? On the charge of corporate espionage, guilty. On the charge of conspiracy to commit elder abuse, guilty. 12 counts. 4 defendants. Guilty on all charges. Natalie stared straight ahead, her face pale. Trevor's head dropped. Wellington closed his eyes. Crane, already sentenced, sat in the gallery with his lawyer watching his co-conspirators fall. Judge Morrison set sentencing for 30 days later. As the marshals led Natalie and Trevor out of the courtroom, Natalie's eyes found mine. No tears, no anger, just emptiness. Aaron leaned over and whispered, "It's over, Dad." Not yet. Sentencing was still ahead, but the verdict was in. Justice, at least the first stage of it, had been served. 1 month after the verdict, we returned to the federal courthouse on 801 Broadway for sentencing. This would be the last time I saw Natalie for many years. The courtroom felt different now, quieter. The reporters had thinned out. The curious onlookers had moved on to the next scandal. Only the people who mattered remained: the prosecutors, the defense attorneys, the 4 defendants in orange jumpsuits, and me. Aaron sat beside me, his jaw tight. Jennifer Walsh sat 3 rows back, arms crossed, watching. Judge Patricia Morrison entered, and we all stood. She wasted no time. These crimes, she began, her voice sharp and clear, represent a profound betrayal of family and fiduciary duty. Corporate espionage, wire fraud, forgery, elder abuse conspiracy, racketeering. The defendants conspired not against strangers, but against someone who trusted them. Against employees who depended on them. Against an institution built over 33 years of hard work. She addressed each defendant individually. Natalie Fisher. Judge Morrison's gaze settled on my daughter. You were positioned to inherit a legacy. Instead, you chose to steal it. You exploited your father's grief. You forged his signature. You conspired to have him declared incompetent. You sold trade secrets for personal profit. You betrayed not only your father, but 2,400 employees whose livelihoods depend on Legacy Table holdings. She paused. The federal sentencing guidelines recommend 10 to 15 years. I find no mitigating factors. You are hereby sentenced to 12 years in federal prison, followed by 3 years of supervised release. You will pay restitution in the amount of $21.2 million jointly and severally with your co-defendants. Natalie's face remained blank. No tears, no reaction. Trevor Blackwell. Judge Morrison turned to my son-in-law. You orchestrated the forgery of an $18 million loan. You bribed a licensed physician to fabricate a dementia diagnosis. You attempted to seize control of a company worth $890 million through fraud and coercion. You are sentenced to 15 years in federal prison, followed by 5 years of supervised release. Trevor's head stayed down. Dr. Richard Crane. The judge's voice hardened. As a physician, you held a position of trust. You violated that trust for money. You agreed to falsify a psychiatric evaluation, a document that could have been used to strip an innocent man of his autonomy. You are sentenced to 10 years in federal prison. Your medical license is revoked permanently. Crane wiped his eyes with a shackled hand. Marcus Wellington. Judge Morrison's gaze shifted to the CEO of Wellington Restaurant Ventures. You purchased stolen trade secrets. You paid $3.2 million for proprietary information. You sabotaged a competitor's expansion plans. You profited from corporate espionage. You are sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. Additionally, Wellington Restaurant Ventures is hereby forfeited to the United States government under RICO statutes. Wellington's lawyer started to object. The judge cut him off with a raised hand. The forfeiture stands. This company was built on stolen intellectual property. It is an instrumentality of crime. She struck her gavel once. Court is adjourned. The U.S. Marshals moved in. Natalie stood first. The marshal clasped the handcuffs around her wrists, standard procedure for federal prisoners post-sentencing. She turned her eyes, scanning the courtroom one last time. They found mine. No words, no tears, just a cold, empty stare. The woman who used to bring me coffee in the morning, who used to help me test new menu items in the test kitchen, who used to laugh at my terrible jokes, she was gone. The mask had fallen. What remained was someone I didn't recognize. She didn't look away, didn't blink, didn't show a single flicker of remorse. The marshal guided her toward the side exit. She walked with her head up, her posture stiff, defiant to the end. Trevor followed next. He kept his eyes on the floor, wouldn't look at anyone. The marshals let him out without incident. Dr. Crane broke down. He sobbed openly as the marshals cuffed him, his shoulders shaking. His lawyer put a hand on his back, said something I couldn't hear. Crane nodded and shuffled toward the exit, his face red and blotchy. Marcus Wellington exploded. "This is bullshit," he shouted, his voice echoing through the courtroom. "You're a vindictive old man, Fisher. You couldn't stand to see someone succeed without you." Judge Morrison's gavel slammed down. "Mr. Wellington, one more outburst, and I will add contempt of court to your sentence." Wellington spat toward the prosecution table. The marshals grabbed him and hauled him out, his curses trailing behind him until the door swung shut. Silence. Aaron exhaled slowly beside me. It's done. Not quite. Restitution would never be paid in full. The appeals would drag on for years. But the sentences were real. Federal prison. No parole in the federal system. 12 years. 15 years. 10 years. 8 years. Justice, real, tangible justice, had been served. 16 months after the dinner. Legacy Table Holdings was thriving. Stock price up 23%. 5 new locations opened: Memphis, Knoxville, Chattanooga, Birmingham, and Atlanta. The Nashville flagship had been renovated. The test kitchen expanded. Revenue projections for the next fiscal year exceeded expectations. Aaron Fisher had been promoted to Chief Operating Officer. The announcement came during an all-staff meeting at the corporate headquarters. 2,400 employees, managers, line cooks, servers, accountants, HR staff gathered in the main conference hall. When I introduced Aaron as the new COO, the applause was thunderous. He'd earned it. Not because of his last name, but because he'd worked 16-hour days to stabilize operations during the trial. Because he'd stepped up when the company needed leadership. Because Diane would have been proud of him. Now I sat in the corner office on the 12th floor of Legacy Table's headquarters, looking out over the Nashville skyline. The city stretched before me, the Cumberland River winding through downtown, the honky-tonks on Broadway, the construction cranes marking new growth. On my desk in a silver frame sat a photograph of Diane. She was smiling, laughing, actually a candid shot from our 30th anniversary dinner. Her eyes crinkled at the corners. Her hand rested on mine. "We did it, sweetheart," I said quietly. "We protected what we built." A soft knock at the door. Aaron stepped in, tablet in hand. "Dad, board meeting in 10 minutes. New expansion proposal, Florida market, Tampa and Orlando." I stood, adjusted my tie, glanced at Diane's photo one last time. She was still smiling. I smiled back. "Let's build something your mother would be proud of." Aaron grinned. "We already have." We walked out of the office together, father and son, ready to build the next chapter of Legacy Table Holdings. Not because we had to, because Diane would have wanted us to. 18 months after the dinner that changed everything, I received a letter from the Federal Correctional Institution in Memphis, Tennessee. The envelope arrived with the morning mail, plain white, institutional, with a return address stamped in block letters: FCI Memphis / inmate number 47392-019 / Natalie A. Fisher. My assistant had left it on my desk with the rest of the correspondence, not knowing what it contained. I recognized the handwriting immediately. Natalie's looping cursive. The same handwriting that had signed birthday cards when she was 12. The same handwriting that had filled out college applications. The same handwriting that had signed stolen emails to Marcus Wellington. My heart pounded as I opened the envelope. 2 pages. Handwritten. Blue ink on lined prison stationery. "Dear Dad, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't deserve it. I've been at FCI Memphis for 8 months now. Every day I think about what I lost. Not the money. Not the company. You. I told myself I was doing the right thing. That you were too old. That you weren't the same after Mom died. That I was protecting the company. But those were lies. I was protecting myself. My ego. My greed. Trevor manipulated me. He told me you'd never give me control, that I had to take it, that you'd thank me later. I believed him because I wanted to believe him, because it was easier than admitting the truth. I was jealous. Jealous of Aaron. Jealous of the legacy you and Mom built without me. Jealous that I wasn't enough. Mom would be disgusted with me. I'm disgusted with myself. I don't know if you'll ever read this. I don't know if you'll ever write back. But I needed you to know I'm sorry. For everything. I'm sorry I betrayed you. I'm sorry I forged your name. I'm sorry I tried to take what wasn't mine. I'm sorry I didn't honor Mom's memory. I have 12 years to think about what I did. 12 years to become someone better. I don't know if I can, but I'm going to try. I love you, Dad. I always have. Even when I didn't show it. Natalie. I read the letter 3 times. The first time I felt nothing but anger. Trevor manipulated me. Even now she was deflecting, blaming someone else for choices she'd made willingly. The emails to Wellington hadn't been coerced. The theft hadn't been forced. She'd chosen every step. The second time I felt pain. She was still my daughter. The little girl who'd helped me roll out dough in the test kitchen of our first restaurant, who'd insisted on wearing a chef's hat, even though it was too big for her head. Who'd cried when Diane died and clung to me at the funeral. That little girl was gone. The third time I felt grief, not for what Natalie had done, but for what she'd lost, for what we'd both lost. A relationship that could never be repaired. Trust that could never be rebuilt. Years that could never be reclaimed. Some wounds take time to heal. Some wounds never heal at all. I picked up a pen, stared at the blank paper in front of me, tried to find the words. Dear Natalie. Nothing came. What could I say that I forgave her I didn't? Not yet. Maybe not ever. That I understood I didn't. I couldn't fathom how someone I'd raised, someone Diane had loved, could have betrayed us so completely. That I still loved her, maybe. But love wasn't enough. Love didn't erase the theft, the forgery, the conspiracy. Love didn't restore what had been broken. I set the pen down, folded the letter carefully, placed it in the top drawer of my desk. Not in the trash, not torn to pieces, just stored, unresolved. Maybe one day I'd write back. Maybe one day I'd visit her. Maybe one day forgiveness would come. But not today. Today I had a company to run, employees to protect, a legacy to preserve. A soft knock at the door. Aaron stepped in, tablet in hand, a slight smile on his face. Dad, the architects for the new Atlanta location just arrived. Ready. My eyes flicked to the drawer one last time. The letter hidden inside. The daughter I'd lost. The choices she'd made. The consequences she was living with. I stood, adjusted my jacket, and nodded. Let's go. Aaron walked beside me as we headed down the hall toward the conference room. He talked about the expansion, about menu concepts, about hiring local managers, about finding suppliers who could meet our standards. About the future, not the past. When we stepped into the conference room, I thought about Diane. About the promise I'd made at her grave. About the 2,400 families who still had jobs because I'd refused to let sentiment override justice. About Aaron, the loyal son, standing beside me ready to build something his mother would be proud of. About Natalie, 8 months into a 12-year sentence, writing letters from a prison cell. Some wounds take time. Some wounds never heal. But justice had been served. And the legacy that Diane and I built was still standing, still growing, still employing people, still feeding families. That was what mattered. That was what I chose to remember. Aaron glanced at me as we entered the room. You okay, Dad? I smiled. A real smile. The first one in months that didn't feel forced. Always, I said. Always ready to build. The architects stood and shook our hands. The blueprints unrolled across the table. The plans for the Atlanta location spread before us, a new chapter, a new beginning. Outside the windows, the Nashville skyline stretched in every direction. The city Diane and I had called home for 40 years. The city where Legacy Table had started with a single restaurant and a dream. The city where it would continue to grow. I pulled out a chair and sat down. Ready to build. Ready to move forward. Ready to honor the legacy that mattered most. Not the one I'd lost, but the one I'd fought to protect. Looking back on this family story, I see a father who had to choose between love and justice, between protecting his daughter and protecting everything his late wife built. If you find yourself in a similar position, don't do what I did. Don't wait 10 months. Act immediately when you see betrayal, because delay only deepens the wound. The lesson from this dad revenge journey is simple: justice and mercy must walk together, but justice comes first. I prosecuted my own daughter not out of hatred, but out of duty to Diane's memory, to our 2,400 employees, to the legacy we built over 33 years. Some called it cold. I call it necessary. This family story taught me that blood doesn't guarantee loyalty, and love doesn't erase accountability. Natalie made her choices. I made mine. God gave us free will, and with it comes consequences. I prayed for wisdom every night during that investigation, and I believe He guided me to protect what mattered most, not vengeance, but preservation. My dad revenge wasn't about destroying Natalie. It was about saving legacy table, about honoring Diane, about ensuring that greed didn't triumph over integrity. People ask if this was truly dad revenge or justice. I say it was both. Would I do it again? Yes. Would I grieve the loss of my daughter every single day? Also, yes. To anyone facing betrayal within their own family story, document everything, seek counsel, and remember that protecting others sometimes means prosecuting those you love. It's the hardest decision you'll ever make, but it may be the right one. Thank you for walking with me to the end of this journey. Please leave a comment. Sharing your thoughts, what would you do if you found yourself in Warren's impossible situation? I truly want to hear your perspective. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing so you don't miss future videos. A gentle note: while inspired by real-world corporate crime cases and family dynamics, certain elements have been dramatized for storytelling purposes. If this content isn't your preference, feel free to explore other videos that suit you better.